Hello and welcome to the video, and my name is Wade Smith. And this video is about the complete mythos and fantasy nonsense of Bruce Lee and Ip or IP Man or however you say his name, especially the fourth movie or whatever, because I've seen it about 8 or 9 months ago. I saw it for the first time. And the supposed fight between him and the Marine Corps karate martial arts instructors never happened. That is complete nonsense. First of all, it's not even real Marines' names being used there. Um, because it's the wrong Marines if it is real Marines, because one of the co-founders of the martial arts program and the chief instructor in the California one of the California bases at the time that happened was in fact my sensei Arsenio James Advincula, which if you don't believe me you can Google his homepage where it explains that to you, as well as the Wikipedia article on Ishinryu Karate, ISSHINRYU Karate, um, and Hindi Kung Fu. All right, because he was, when he co-founded the martial arts program in the Marine Corps, he was already a high-ranking black belt in Ishinryu Karate and a high-ranking black belt in Hindi Kung Fu. So there are quite a number of facts that are totally false and preposterous and ridiculous in the movie, where they're glorifying Bruce Lee, even though he's not even a major character, but is briefly seen in the movie, and glorifying his instructor and making it look like the Marines did something wrong and went around beating up Chinese immigrants, which they didn't, and then claiming that this fight happened between Bruce Lee's instructor and the Marine instructor almost literally to the death. That never happened because, first of all, it's the wrong Marine. Second of all, he's the wrong belt rank. Third of all, the real Marine instructor already knew a high level ranking of Hindi Kung Fu. So they were not rejecting Kung Fu in the Marine Corps martial arts program. He already taught Kobudo and Filipino weapons fighting and Kung Fu and karate as a master gunnery sergeant, or master sergeant rather, excuse me, a master sergeant in the Marine Corps combat system, and he refined the bayonet fighting and some other things. So it's the wrong Marine, the wrong ranking Marine, the wrong style of karate, the wrong style of Kung Fu, at allegedly the right base. And some totally false claims that the Marines were harassing and beating up and supposedly even killing some of the Chinese immigrants. It's nonsense. So this Bruce Lee mythos, they have made an idol, first of all, out of Bruce Lee and this other man, that they are willing to spread any lie or myth or fairy tale or fantasy whatsoever about them for a buck in Hollywood. It's not even good fantasy because there's no suspension of disbelief. It's a complete outright lie, and it's offensive because as a real martial arts student and as a student of the man who actually did found the Marine Corps martial arts program, and I know that is a lie and that did not happen because Grandmaster Advincula was awarded 6 golden stars for good behavior. He can't even fit them all on his ribbon, and he was awarded a Congressional Medal of Valor and a Congressional Black Belt for his contribution to the martial arts program. And it was originally his idea because he started the experiment on that base of training Marines because Congress and the Marine Corps originally didn't want to do it, and he convinced them to do a trial run to train the Marines for so many months. And by the time they finished training them for that many months, they ended up being more effective fighters, obviously. But also, they actually got in fewer barroom brawls during leave time and other fights during leave time because they learned to respect one another and both respect one another as a human and respect one another's abilities. Because one of the reasons Congress and the Marine Corps didn't want to do it at first is they thought teaching Marines a fighting system would make them fight one another more often. and it didn't in the real experiment. They ended up getting better behaved. So, this entire movie series is completely stupid and is a fantasy, and none of it ever happened. Just like the Dragon and Bruce Lee story, none of that ever happened. If you're going to do a documentary about somebody real, how about do a real documentary rather than a complete fantasy documentary that you have sold to people? And because people are naive, they watch it and believe this nonsense, and they come away harmed by it or think they've been harmed, and no harm was done because none of this ever happened. It's really fraud. It really is. It's fraud because you're claiming that you beat up the founding Grand Master of the claiming that this Ip Man or IP Man, however you say his name, beat up and defeated Arsenio Advincula without using the name Arsenio Advincula, which clearly never happened. Because had he actually fought Arsenio Advincula, he would have gotten beaten. So even though they didn't use the name of Advincula, they apparently made up a fake Marine's name. It was the same base, and it was the same time period and the same martial arts program, and they sat there and told a bunch of lies that never happened, going both ways. So, stop with the myth and fantasy Bruce Lee lovers and Ip Man or IP Man lovers, however you say his name. Stop with the Bruce Lee fantasies. It's getting really old and really, really ridiculous. And it wasn't enough just to tell a bunch of lies about Bruce Lee. Not only did he lie about himself, but everybody since then has lied about him and exaggerated him more and more. But then you have to make up a fairy tale and a fantasy about his instructor to make him look like Superman. And by the way, I've trained in real Kung Fu or Hindiani Gung Fu with a G. It's just a nuance, difference branch of Kung Fu. But and in addition to karate and any number of other martial arts styles, judo, aikido, Japanese jiu-jitsu, and crazy jiu-jitsu, I've trained in Tai Chi Kwan and Hindiani Kung Fu. And there's no hand waving and all of this nonsense and all of these exaggerated postures and super deep stances and all of this stuff are not used. That's all Hollywood nonsense. That has absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with real martial arts. It's true that the branch of Kung Fu that I studied, as well as Tai Chi Kwan, are in fact open handed styles, but mostly Tai Chi Kwan is just slow motion Kung Fu with heavy breathing exercises, to be honest with you. Although it does emphasize posture and precision of hand movements and stance and so forth. But every style does, hopefully, or else it's not a very good martial art. Um, but just as I said, stop with the fairy tale nonsense where you exaggerate Bruce Lee and his students and especially his trainer or trainers to some mythical, virtually godlike status because that's what you're doing. You're making an idol out of him. You might not call him God, but you're treating him like God.